All right, ladies and gents, you submitted the questions, and here's my answers to them. So for everyone that submitted questions, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. For everybody else, go check the community tab, guys. You'll see the phone numbers listed there, and I'll read it off for you at the end of the video if you would like to submit questions. All right, y'all. Let's get into it. What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is you get around to watching this. Once again, guys, my name is Steven Hyder, and this is Gate City Sports Channel. All right, guys, fan-submitted questions. That's what we're talking about today, guys. I mean, we're going to have a variety of topics here. I got two ready to roll off for you guys. So we're going to talk a little offense. We're going to talk a little defense today, guys. So segment one, we're going to talk about those wide receivers, guys. We're going to talk about this offense, and I'm going to give you my take on things, all right? So without further ado, let's roll the question.
Hey, what's going on, Gates? This is Romy one more. Just wanted to know about our three starting receivers. I'm thinking it's going to be Jackson, Goodwin, or maybe Rager. What do you think?
All right, first off, Romy1, number one, I just want to say thank you so much for submitting your question. Romy1, I really appreciate the way that you are devout. You seem to watch pretty much every video I put out. You're always, leaving feedback and talking with me in these videos. I see you on live streams, man. I really do appreciate you, and I'm really thankful for your question. To your question, I guess I should explain the way that I would personally evaluate the situation, prior to camp really fully taking place, because we're just really reporting right now. We haven't really seen the guys per se, really doing anything to prove themselves yet. I would look at it this way, you got to judge the interest of the front office against the coaching staff, against the individual progression that a player can make in an offseason. And the way that I personally view this situation is, I know a lot more about the Z, the flanker position, than I know about the slot, than I know about the split end / X boundary receiver. In my opinion, when we look at the flanker, we know Djax is likely, unless something happens and he's not on the football team or an injury occurs, Djax is going to be the guy. And we just have a lot of talent in general at the flanker position. We got guys who are really good flankers. I mean, you got Djax, you got Marquise Goodwin, right? You got Jalen Reagor, you got Quez Watkins. All four of those guys are really, and honestly, when you break down their film, these are flankers. I think all four of those guys have some capability of playing in the slot, but they each kind of have some question marks when you talk about moving them. To begin with, Djax, how much do you want to expose him inside? Definitely on some vertical routes. I would love to see Djax go inside and really hurt defenses trying to figure out who the vertical element's going to be. I like that, but how many snaps you're going to get out of a guy that's a veteran like that? I mean, I think he'll do it for you a few times a game, but I don't think he's going to be a traditional slot receiver by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people think Marquise Goodwin could be a slot receiver, but traditionally speaking, guys, he's played on the outside just like Djax. Same kind of ability he can give you. I mean, he's a fast guy, and this is a Olympic track kind of record guy. I like the guy. I mean, I think he's a good football player, but just like Djax, he's had a lot of injuries, and how much do you want to expose him to the physicality that happens on the inside of those hash marks? It's more physical in there for receivers. Then you get a guy like Reagor. Well, we heard what, Coach Peterson said about Jalen Reagor. He said, look, we're not going to make the same mistake we made last year with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. We want to stick this kid at one position. When he's mastered the craft at that one alignment as a receiver, then we'll move him to the next alignment, to the slot receiver, then to maybe the, split end X receiver. So he's got a learning growth to go. Then you look at a guy like Quez Watkins. Same thing would apply, right? He's got to learn one position first, and we got to figure out where the Eagles envision Quez Watkins. But Quez Watkins has a lot of vertical speed, but when you really looked at the agility drills, right, like your 3-cone and your 20-yard shuttle, he didn't do that well, to be quite honest. And I'm really hoping Brunson gets a chance to talk with him, because I would love to know his perspective on what happened. Did he just come in, a little out of shape? Did he try to put a little muscle on for the combine, and maybe did that slow down some of his agility? I mean, did he just get worn down by all the drills and he just didn't perform well in a couple of them, and it's not really who he is as a football player? That's all interesting to me when it comes to those type of guys. When I look at the slot receiver, I think you got you got one guy that you had last year who was an undrafted rookie free agent who came on in Greg Ward Jr. and played pretty well. Greg Ward Jr. did benefit a lot from matchups. He got a lot of linebacker coverage, and he burnt it. Now, what I will say about Greg Ward Jr. is that I think the kid should be on the team, but I don't know that he's a lock by any stretch of the imagination. I think the kid's going to earn his way on, but I don't know that that's a solid, lock. And I don't know outside of Greg Ward Jr. who really can play the slot, which is part of the reason why I'm more preferential towards Greg Ward Jr. Then if I look at it towards where I think might be honestly the most weakest position the Eagles have right now would be the split end position. I mean, ideally you'd want Alshon Jeffrey there on his final year of his contract if you're going to keep him on the football team, but Alshon's probably a pup guy. I mean, not probably. He's going to be either a pup or an IR guy. I don't know if he'll accept an IR designation, but I think the Eagles would love to put him as an IR designation. Past Alshon, who's the guy that was supposed to replace Alshon? It was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. The problem was, I broke down film on J.J., and I'll link it at the end of this video. Guys, I know he was injured, but he also was a very bad route runner last year. I mean, you can't just take that away. I'm a guy who coaches the position. I played it a little bit too. I know bad route running when I see it, and he was a bad route runner. Tailing away from your quarterback on a slant route, that's inexcusable, right? Looking at when you're bouncing, you're sitting there bouncing around and jumping away from your quarterback when you should be sitting down in a zone. Inexcusable, guys. You look at simple things like running a switch route, right? Switch route where it's basically, basically someone's giving you like a unintentional block, okay? And he can't pull it off. I mean, he has some work to do. The question is, can Aaron Moorhead groom JJ? Because I'm going to tell you guys, I'm down on JJ right now because I think he was discernibly bad last year. But at the same time, guys, I do think there's talent there. And I do think he could be a guy to kind of keep your eye on because I hope he's got a chip on his shoulder because he's got something to prove. And I hope he comes out here and he balls out. I really do. Past him, I like John Hightower a lot, but John Hightower he's light. Guys, he doesn't have adequate strength, really. Athletic, though. John Hightower, I think, is probably the more athletic of these guys. He's not the fastest. He's just really good in the agility drills. This is a kid that he's got some length at 6'2". The issue I saw with John Hightower, though, is I do question his ability for contested catches where there's physicality on the boundary side of the field. Boundary side, things tighten up just like on the interior and guys get more physical with you. He doesn't time the jump very well at times, and he does have smaller hands for a 6'2" guy, and at times it felt like with the mistimed jump and then just maybe those smaller hands, it could be an eye coordination thing too, guys, hand and eye coordination issue going on, but he didn't come down with balls he should have come down with. If you asked me today what I would see in terms of a starting position, D-Jax would be your Z. Greg Ward Jr., I would probably say until he gets dethroned, which is very possible, and even some people might say is likely. He's your slot right now. And then I would say that you're in 11-man personnel, then your X would probably be JJ. But guys can outcompete them. I think you're going to see Marquise Goodwin and Jalen Reagor. Those guys are going to play a lot. I think John Hightower will crack the lineup. The question is who gets left out, guys? How many you keeping? How many you cutting? Because that's the issue, right? Because someone like Quez Watkins, you could even say John Hightower, even though I don't think that's likely. You could see a guy like, Marquise Goodwin, Greg Ward Jr. Those guys could get cut. I don't think JJ's going to get cut this year, but, I wouldn't rule it out either, man. He hasn't played well. All right, y'all. Let's get on to question number 2.
Hey, CD. This is Anthony. I call from Texas, so I watch your show a lot. I like Eagle. So one thing I want to say, you say Goodwin have injured a lot. Last 2 years, it's not injured because his wife had problem. His wife lost 2 baby, twins, and 1 baby. So he lost the last 2 years, lost 3 baby. That's why that's why the software put in the fake injury, but it was not injured. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents. So before I jump into that question, I just want to show you something. Apparently, I need more Eagles swag. My niece has made me a Philadelphia Eagles horse to have on my desk here as I film and record videos. So this right here, this horse is called Eagle. Thank you, Jaden. I appreciate you, hon. All right, Anthony. Number one, man, I really appreciate your call, buddy. Appreciate the fact that you've been watching the show for a while and all that. There are some things, man, I want to point out about your comments. There's element of truth in. At the same time, bro, I'm sorry, man, but you are wrong. Number one, yes, he definitely went through some stuff in 2017 where he lost twins, and in 2018, he lost a son that was it was pretty late in the actual pregnancy that his wife lost the kid. Um, I'm really actually uncomfortable talking about this kind of stuff because it's so personal to a player, but I'm doing it because he's been pretty open and honest about sharing it. So, yes, he certainly had some things that would affect people. I can understand the argument that maybe his health has deterred as a result of that, but you can't separate the equation that he has been injured. It's on record. We can see it. As a matter of fact, he's talked about it himself. He talked about and let loose that he had an MRI done.
Yeah, so just got off of work. Now I have to head to get an MRI because my knee has been bothering me, my toe has been bothering me.
And no one knew about it. And there were all kinds of questions about whether or not the 49ers were going to get fined because of this. Later on, it was torn out that he sprained his ACL and had an issue with one of his toes. So he had knee and toe injuries that placed him on IR last season. So you can also go back and look. I mean, it was like somewhere around like week, I want to say it was 7 or 8 or something like that. He basically, after a certain week, guys, he only had like 40 snaps. So, I mean, clearly he had issues going on. The coaching staff in San Francisco came out and said he had chronic leg injuries that were bothering him and implicating the knee. This is why I walk with a little bit of caution when it comes to Marquise Goodwin. Because truth be told, Marquise Goodwin has been injured a lot. From 2017 through 2016, guys, he had like 5 concussions. Okay? That's a scary number of concussions. Now, they were all grade 1s. But you don't want a guy getting too many concussions. At some point, you got to consider the long-term health of an individual. My stance on my stance on Marquise Goodwin has always been this. I like the guy as an individual. I think he's an incredibly nice guy. I watch his channel. I think he's a good guy. But I also think that as talented as he is and as athletic as he is, the kid qualifying for the Olympics, I mean, the kid's athletic. He's always going to be an injury concern. He's much more of an injury concern than even Djax is. My stance has always been like, hey, if you can get him out of camp healthy and, he can really show you the speed that he possesses, he's got a shot at making the roster. But I'm far from guaranteeing his spot because the bottom line is he's almost 30. Okay? The Eagles need to get younger, and we got a plethora of young guys that we need to carry on. And you got to consider the implications to your roster in exposing some of these guys. So while I don't think that some of these guys will be claimed, so, when you go to roster cutbacks, teams get an opportunity to claim guys. Well, I don't think that they would necessarily be claimed. Anyone at any point in time can sign a player off your practice squad. So it could be week 6, week 7, week 8, someone signs off one of these young receivers from you. The Eagles have to be really careful because we have to get younger and cheaper at the wide receiver position. So that's where I think that you cannot guarantee Marquise Goodwin, in my opinion. But I do appreciate the call, man. I appreciate you tuning in. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And let's go to call number 3, guys.
Where will K'Von Wallace fit into the secondary? And who do you foresee being the starting safeties? Thanks. Bye.
I didn't catch a name on that one, but once again, guys, thank you so much for submitting your questions. It does mean a lot. I love having an opportunity to interact with you guys, especially on this type of level. Good question. K'Von Wallace. I'm a fan. I like K'Von Wallace a lot, and I think he is the future of this Eagles secondary as a safety. What I will say is I do expect a little more gradual approach to him this season. He's going to get opportunities to play just because of how heavy we are at safety. One of the things I'll key guys on before I get into the greater question here is to remember dime is on the rise in the NFL now too. Dime coverage, so 6 defensive backs on the field. The Eagles were a part of the reason why that increased by almost 3% last year. So we're seeing a lot of nickel, we're seeing a lot of dime. As I look at the safety situation, guys, this is what I see. Rodney McLeod is probably going to be one of your starters. And I think your other starter, until it gets dethroned, is going to be Jalen Mills. Okay, we haven't seen camp yet. I mean, these guys haven't had a real opportunity to compete with pads on and to really show what they can or can't do. So I'm kind of waiting on that to work its way out first, guys. So if you're asking me right now, I would say that, base coverage, guys, I'd say it's McLeod and it's going to be Jalen Mills. Now, I do think when we go into like a big nickel situation, then I think you'll see, a combination of McLeod, Mills, and then I think Will Parks will be the next guy off the bench. Now, to your question about K'Von Wallace, I do expect K'Von Wallace to play, even as your fourth guy. He's going to get reps. I think he's going to be one of those rookies that you see play a lot. And K'Von Wallace is going to be one of those guys that you're going to have to keep a really close eye on because most of these safeties are only on 1-year contracts. I mean, McLeod's got a 2-year contract technically. But when you look at Jalen Mills, you look at Will Parks, those guys are really on prove-it 1-year deals. So we do have to pay attention to that. The other aspect to that question that I'll kind of throw out there for everyone to really consider is, don't just think of K'Von Wallace as a Malcolm Jenkins in the box type safety. I think K'Von Wallace could play a little free too. I could see McLeod coming down and playing in the box. I could see the Eagles in certain packages to where, Vontae Maddox wins your starting, role as CB2. When you get in the red zone, I wouldn't shock me to see guys like K'Von Wallace, Will Parks, and Jalen Mills get moved down in the red zone to play outside. Guys, I mean, physical matchups. I think the Eagles will be more diverse, guys, in the sets that we run as a defense, especially from our coverages. I expect to see more disguises this year, and I expect us to play a little more to the matchups in general. Meaning, you got a 6'2" guy out there that's physical. You need to put, Jalen Mills. You need to put K'Von Wallace. You need to put a Will Parks on those guys and let the bigger, more physical guys play. I think you're going to see a much different approach to the Eagles' defense this season. Now, by no stretch of the imagination, guys, am I promising you that you won't see, that weird sticks, cover 3 prevent defense you see. If you're asking me, how in the world is, cover 3 or sticks a part of the cover 3, because at the heart of it, guys, when you play a cover 3, you got 3 players playing back deep and you got 4 underneaths. It's just basically when you play sticks, you take those 4 underneaths and you move them out by the sticks. And then they got to come up and make a play. I'm not going to say you won't see that anymore, guys, but I do expect us to see a lot more pre- and post-snap movement. I do expect us to try to take advantage of some of the younger quarterbacks in our division and capitalize upon those opportunities. I think K'Von Wallace is going to play a big role in special teams, and I think you'll see him 25 to maybe 35% of snaps. I think he will play. I mean, you even look at the Eagles roster last year, man. You had down deep depth guys getting reps at safety. I mean, let's just be honest. Epps got reps. Even Rudy Ford got some reps before he got injured. Like, guys played. And I don't think it's going to change. I think K'Von Wallace, even though he's going to be categorized as the fourth, safety, I don't think that's going to deter playing time. I think the kid's going to play a lot, in my opinion. But that's my take on it, guys. All right, y'all. I really, really do appreciate all these questions, guys. Thank y'all so much for submitting them. For you guys who are like, whoa, I didn't know Gate was doing this. Like, what in the world, Gate? How do we submit our questions? I'm going to give you the phone number, guys. So to submit your questions, I need you to dial up area code 336-618-7767. Guys, just leave me a message. Leave me a message asking me your question, and listen, at least once a week, I'll try to choose 3 to 5 of these questions, and I'll do a video on them. I might even sprinkle out throughout the week, guys. I might take one of the questions throughout the week and plug it into a video somewhere, especially if it pertains to the topic I'm talking about. I might just plug it in and answer it. Anyways, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for paying attention. These are my thoughts about it, but you already know I'm going to ask you. I want to know, what do you guys think about these questions? Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think. And, oh, yeah, how do we end these videos? That's right. We do a little E-A-G-L-E-S. Let's go, Eagles.